The first film I'm talking about today is the obscure Christmas classic Beyond Tomorrow from 1940. Directed by A. Edward Sutherland, Beyond Tomorrow starts on Christmas Eve in New York City. We see three older men in an apartment. They are engineers at a firm and are working furiously on a new project. Charles Winninger, who plays Michael, is trying to convince the other two, George, played by Harry Carey, and Allan, played by C. Aubrey Smith, to stop working and enjoy the holiday. The household is looked over by Madame Tanya, played by Maria Uspenskaya, a former Russian countess who fled with her butler from Russia to the States and were taken in by the three men. In an effort to spread Christmas cheer, Michael has the idea to throw three wallets out the window, each with $10 and a business card from each of the men. Two of those wallets are returned by strangers. The men meet James Houston, a handsome young singer from Texas played by Richard Carlson, and Jean, a kind-hearted young woman played by Jean Parker. The three men invite these two to spend Christmas Eve with them, and they all soon become fast friends. Now, here is where the story takes a dark turn. The following month, the three men die in a plane crash. Their ghosts return to look over their friends, James and Jean. The three men are sort of in an in-between space. Their spirits are residing on Earth before they're called to either heaven or hell. And while they remain on Earth, the men, Michael in particular, try to help James, who is quickly being led astray. So this is my second time watching Beyond Tomorrow. I was reminded of the film when I read this book recently, Christmas in the Movies, which I reviewed last week, and I'll leave a link above so you can check that review. And I really like this movie. I don't tend to like stories about the afterlife, and it's funny because I actually picked two movies about that for this episode. But I like how the afterlife is handled here, and I think what makes up for it is Charles Winninger. He's just so charming as Michael, and you kind of want to see him succeed in the afterlife with all of his efforts to help his friends in the living realm. In this movie is also just the Christmas elements, which are really just like the first part of the movie. It's just like full of like that Christmas cheer. Like you kind of want to get a cup of hot cocoa or a Tom and Jerry cocktail like they have in the movie, which, you know, has egg whites. I feel like all cocktails back then had egg whites, so maybe not. Maybe just stick to a hot cocoa. But I like how the Michael character, played by Charles Winninger, kind of embodies the Christmas spirit. And he reminds me a little bit of Henry Travers as Clarence the Angel in It's a Wonderful Life. I think those two movies actually would pair quite nicely together. It's a Wonderful Life and Beyond Tomorrow. And Richard Carlson and Jean Parker, they're sweet in the movie, but they don't really have much chemistry together. But Richard Carlson, though, is at his most gorgeous. He's so beautiful in this film. And we see his character like pursue this career in radio as a singer. And I had no clue that Richard Carlson was such a talented singer, and he sings several songs in this movie. And he has this amazingly beautiful voice. And I did learn recently that he uses his singing voice in like another movie, but not so much in the rest of his career, which seems like a shame. And for the three like main characters, like Charles Winninger's character, Harry Carey, and C. Aubrey Smith, I like how they have three distinct personalities. Like Charles Winninger's character is warmth, and C. Aubrey Smith is like tepid, and then Harry Carey is just like ice cold, and they kind of represent those kind of sentiments. And then Harry Carey's character has like he's basically like this bah humbug character who kind of needs to face the error of his ways, which I think is really interesting. Also, like Richard Carlson, he starts off as like very kind and genuine, and then he has like a downfall, and he has to also kind of see the error of his ways. So that kind of adds like a more morality like element to the story. And this is like a rather sentimental movie. It's one of the few times that the title actually makes sense for the story, because this is how I think of it. because like movies from this era, especially B pictures, the titles sometimes or very often like did not make sense for the plot. They have like nothing to do with each other, or they're a name of a song, or they're just like something that would titillate an audience to come see a movie, but oftentimes they didn't say anything. And I think this is an interesting case in which the title could mean something, because if you think about it, the characters in the movie are doing good things around Christmas time, but they also have to think about what happens after Christmas, beyond tomorrow, like what happens in the future. And there's no future in like the flesh for the three men, but they have to think about the beyond, what's going to happen to them after they stop haunting the like earth and go either to hell or to heaven. So and then you also have Jean Parker and Richard Carlson's characters who have to think about what's going to happen beyond tomorrow for their relationship, which starts off really great but then goes downhill. So I like the idea that it's that like the good cheer of Christmas, like that feeling of, being neighborly, embracing others, being of service to others, should go beyond Christmas, beyond tomorrow. And I love that line that Charles Winninger says in the movie, that there are no strangers on Christmas Eve. And that just made me really think about things, about how this movie really captures that neighborly spirit. Okay, now to my notes about the interesting facts about this movie. Beyond Tomorrow was based on an original screenplay by two women screenwriters, Mildred Cram and Adele Comandini. And I was like obsessed with learning everything about Adele Comandini that I could, and there's not really much out there. So this is what I learned about her. She was the daughter of Italian immigrants and was raised in the Bronx. She moved to Los Angeles probably sometime in like the 1920s or 30s. And her story started to become adapted, and her scenarios into film. And then she moved to Los Angeles and became a bona fide screenwriter for studios. I did discover that she co-wrote Christmas in Connecticut, which is one of my absolute top favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite Christmas movies. She got, her big break was actually writing the screenplay for Three Smart Girls. And then she also co-wrote the one for Beyond Tomorrow. And it's interesting because she actually was listed as associate producer, which I think is interesting for this particular movie, because you don't usually see that for a screenwriter. And then I found out that she eventually went to work for TV, writing television episodes, and she also was a biographer. She wrote several biographies about interesting women, like doctors and things. So I thought that was interesting. I did find a piece in the International Photographer magazine from 1940, which discussed the fact that the producer on Beyond Tomorrow, Lee Garms, was looking for money. He was looking for a good story, and he wanted a major release. And so when Adele Comandini found out that what Lee Garms was looking for, she approached him with a story that she created with Mildred Graham called Beyond Tomorrow. And the producer, Lee Garms, really liked it. He went and found a financial backer. RKO was really interested, and they agreed to the picture. And because of her approaching Lee Garms with the project, that's how she became associate producer, which I thought was really interesting. She had a lot of gumption. And what's interesting too is that this came out in 1943. Oh wait, was it 1943? No, it's not. It's 1940. I don't know why I said 1943. So 1940, you have like the outbreak of World War II, and what's interesting about that is that for this movie, it ended up losing its financial banking. The bank kind of freaked out and was like, okay, we need to save money because there's war going on. And this was before the US actually entered World War II, but of course it's the tensions everywhere. So Lee Garms was like out of money. He's like, okay, I have nothing to find it. So the president of RKO, George Schaefer, really believed in this project. Like a lot of people firmly believed it. You have the two screenwriters who were passionate about the story, especially Adele Comandini, who was forward enough to go and pitch this to a producer. You have the producer himself, Lee Garms, who felt really strongly about this movie and went to great efforts to make it. And then you have the head of RKO at the time, which was George Schaefer, and he really believed in the project too. So George Schaefer ended up bringing it to Bank of America, and Bank of America ended up funding the movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And there, as I said, this was in the book Christmas in the Movies, which I reviewed previous week. So I just wanted to share some insights from that book that Jeremy Arnold, the author, had shared. Critics did not find this film well. They didn't like the shift to fantasy and found it outlandish, which I thought was interesting. He does talk about the ghostly effects. So I'm going to read a little bit from the book. It says, the transparent ghost effects were praised at the time and were created not by double exposures, but by filming reflections of actors on mirror image, hidden sets through angled glass, an old magic technique known as Pepper's Ghost. I thought that was interesting. Beyond Tomorrow is available through various sources. It's actually in the public domain, so everyone's kind of free to post it online or make it available or sell it as they want. You can find it on the free streaming services like Tubi and Pluto and Plex, but you have to watch them with ads. There are a few versions of it of varying quality on YouTube. I recently watched it because I recorded it again, because I had recorded it before on TCM, and they're showing it again on the 22nd and the 24th of December. So if you want to watch it that way, you can DVR it or watch it live. The quality is not great because of the public domain, so it's quite fuzzy. Even the TCM version wasn't very good, but it's worth watching. Just avoid the colorized version. There is one of those, and I always say don't watch the colorized version of a black and white film. They're usually not that great. And there is a DVD available of Beyond Tomorrow if you're interested in getting the physical media version.